that is the taste of a Batman news update. And no, really, this video is quite a Batman update. So not only are we talking about the continued update with the DCU Batman, I'm a couple of days late to this particular news, and that is from my video on Friday when the whole internet was talking about, oh my god, is an older, or should I say previous, Batman actor gonna stay on as the DCU Batman? And so we've got an update from that because James Gunn has debunked it, but also we've got some updates in Matt Reeves' Batverse. So we're talking about BATFAMILY, believe it or not, and also some spin-off show news, because it's been once again reaffirmed that Gotham PD, Arkham Asylum, as well as obviously the Penguin, are all in development. And that is always exciting to hear, because I know many people are looking forward to the Penguin, but the Arkham Asylum show, what could be going on there, Gotham PD, plus we have some really interesting castings for the Penguin that made me really happy. I'm not even joking. Some of these faces, I was like, oh, I wonder who they're gonna play. So we'll talk about that at the end as well. So let's kick off with another update on the DCU Batman. So just to recap, just in case some of you aren't in the loop, on Friday, a lot of YouTubers like myself in this space of the fandom were putting out update videos because Grace Randolph, a very big YouTuber, I guess you could say, who is, I would say, more very unreliable than not with her information. Granted, I do want to give credit where credit's due. Sometimes she gets things right, but to be honest, with the amount of times people like James Gunn or other big people out there have to debunk it, it does make you think, yeah. And then that was the consensus around this news anyway. You know, with all due respect to her, she put this out there, but lo and behold, once again, it has been debunked. And that's what I said in my video anyway. She essentially put out there on Twitter, I hear that it's going to be a former Batman who cameos at the end of The Flash. Now, I do want to say, and from what I'm hearing as well, take me at my word or don't, I really don't particularly care, but you may have heard this anyway from other people, she is right about a former Batman apparently cameoing at the end of the Flash movie. Now this, from here on out, is where it went kind of awry, and she said could potentially stick around as the new permanent DCU Batman. And as soon as I absorbed that information, I was like, no, like these wires are crossing, it's fritzing out, it's just, that doesn't make sense. It goes against everything that James Gunn is setting up with Batman, the Brave and the Bold. And I just want to say that I'm completely aware after reading so many comments that, you know, some people were down for Christian Bale returning back, or even George Clooney with regards to being the father to Damian Wayne, just an older Batman in the DCU. But honestly, with everything that James Gunn has said over the past X amount of time, it did seem like they were going with younger actors, Superman being the youngest, Batman being several years older, or as he says, a couple of years older, but he's gonna have to be more than a couple of years older than a mid-20s Superman to have a son of Damian Wayne at around 12 to 14, for obvious reasons. So I understood that, but for me, I was like, no, like, I get it, have them cameo at the end, but to keep him on as the DCU Batman, as much as that would be really big for some people, especially having Christian Bale, but then you really have to take the fan goggles off and just imagine a Nolan Christian Bale coming into a very fantastical world. Maybe you still love it, I don't know. Let's move on from that. Bottom line, I rambled a lot in that video because it was just something I couldn't see happening. But again, just to make it very clear, what is apparently true, and again, I've heard this, but lots of other people have heard this as well, is what Grace said with regards to one of the former Batman cameoing at the end. Apparently that's happening. Apparently that is happening. It's just that no, they are not staying on as the new James Gunn and Peter Safran DC Studios DC Universe Batman that we're going to see in the Brave and the Bold movie. And that is even more solidly debunked because James Gunn got asked by a fan saying, is it true you're casting George Clooney as the new main DCU Batman? James Gunn, absolutely not. Does that mean we're still getting an actor who's already been Batman, or we're getting a new actor altogether? New actor. There you have it, people. And I can already predict a bunch of comments, and the reason why I spoke about this on Friday is because it was just going so big on, you know, the public town square of Twitter. There's a lot of DC fans on there. It's one of the most active places to put out opinions, so I felt like I wanted to cover it. I'm glad, you know, it's not a hate say I told you so thing, it's just I'm glad I was right about this, because despite all of the fangoggle visions of something that I would even like to see in an Elseworlds kind of timeline from where I'm living right now, Christian Bale comes back as the Batman of the DCU. No, I was just like, no, we need a new Batman. If you're going to do a new Superman, they're probably going to do a new Wonder Woman at this rate, because again, lots of people pointing out it'd be kind of strange for Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman to stand beside one new Superman, one new Batman, when she's kind of stood side by side with the previous Superman and the previous Batman. I mean, I could be wrong about that, and it might not be as weird if she does reprise her role, but regardless, a new Batman is coming. Sorry if that disappoints some of you about Christian Bale or George Clooney. Obviously, it wasn't Val Kilmer, because apparently he has quite a few health issues. I believe it might be something like throat cancer. I actually wasn't aware of that when I was filming that video. I didn't even entertain Val Kilmer, though, as reprising the role, and just the whole idea of actors in their 60s, and even though Bale was in his 50s, it's an 8 to 10 year plan, and you know, Bale would be in his 60s by the end of the 10-year plan, and unless he died off like frickin' Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, then he would continue on into Chapter 3 of the DCU, because don't forget, the first 10 years of this DCU plan is 2 chapters, and James Gunn said that would end the basic storytelling there, but they would carry on, just like the MCU has, and now we're into like the Kang dynasty and everything going that direction. And I'm not saying that if you're 60 years old, you can't be Batman. I mean, for crying out loud, look at Michael Keaton coming back as Batman. He's like, what, 70 something? I think he's 70, 71. But that's like a very specific thing going on there, because Barry traveling back in time, hey, let's bring back Keaton for this kind of role. It's not designed to stay on for the next 10 years of the mainstream continuity of the next DC cinematic universe. But let's move on from the DCU Batman, other than just, you know, hey, get excited, we're getting a new Batman actor in the DCU. We'll explore that more some other day. But what I wanted to talk about here in the next update, this is when we move into the Batverse side of things. So we've got the Penguin show to talk about with some new castings. We've got some more reassuring news on the Gotham PD and Arkham show. But what I want to start off with today is Variety. So I believe in this article here, Variety were interviewing Leslie Grace, the star of the scrapped Batgirl movie. What I want to say, first and foremost, is that I'm not denying that Variety is a big trade, a major trade even, and I'm not stupid or naive enough to say that they report things and they never get anything right. Of course they do. Like, for crying out loud, they've got a reputation, and in the nature of journalism or trying to get some scoops, you know, like exclusive, they get some things right, but they don't get everything right. Prime example being when we had the whole ramp up for what was going on with James Gunn's DC Universe, and many people were saying to me that Robert Pattinson's Batman was going to be incorporated into the new DCU, and he was going to be the new Batman for the Brave and the Bold, and God knows whatever was going to go on there. Obviously, we didn't have the Brave and the Bold announcement then, but I was just like dying on my hill saying that's just not going to happen. Fair enough, if it did happen, I would still enjoy it. I would still try and enjoy everything about it. And that's when Variety put out a piece, and I do wonder sometimes if they do try and ride the wave, not just Variety, but some major trades of what could be happening out there. But what I do like about James Gunn dispelling and debunking things on Twitter, I know some people have the opinion, and I do get it, that, you know, for the head of DC Studios, should you really be engaging with fans and debunking and saying yes, no, this, that, and the other almost every other day? But when it comes to this, it's just so sweet, because I feel like a lot of headlines out there, a lot of articles, for example, even with the most recent old DCEU stuff, there was tons of accounts saying Michael Keaton has been completely cut out of the Batman movie. No, the report actually was that his ending appearance with Sasha Calle's Supergirl, which was originally intended to be shown because it would have spiraled into their new DCEU, but that's no longer happening anymore. Keaton isn't staying as Batman and Batgirl. That movie got scrapped. There's no solo Batman Beyond movie, so they removed that. That makes sense. There's no point keeping that scene in there if they're not going to carry on into the new DCU. But the headlines of that was like, no, he's just been cut out of the movie. Just clickbait headline, people thinking that Michael Keaton wasn't even going to be in the Flash movie anymore. So when you have major trades, I felt like they were around the time of the whole DCU talk, before James Gunn made his announcements, they noticed, a lot of people were worrying about Robert Pattinson's Batman. oh, maybe we should say something like this. And that is, a well-placed source tells Variety that James Gunn and Peter Safran are looking to incorporate Robert Pattinson or Matt Reeves' Batman into their new DCU.
Interesting. No.
And then James Gunn quote tweeted in saying, personally, he likes the guy who wrote that report or article or whatever, but this is entirely untrue. And hence, this is why I think what James Gunn does sometimes with debunking things like this is very important, because if he didn't reply to that Variety article, by the way, I would still have people saying to me, like, Boba, like, you need to finally get rid of reality. Like, Matt Reeves' Batman is going to be the foundation of the new DCU. That, the first Batman movie, it's going to be actually retconned into the first movie. Like, it would still be going on. I would still be saying, no, I really don't think so. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but it would still be here. So thankfully, he does things like this, in my opinion, and thankfully he did it with the whole George Clooney thing and saying, no, there's going to be a new actor for the DCU Batman. And finally, I know there's a lot of setup for this, but Variety asked this to Leslie Grace when talking to her in this interview. Matt Reeves' The Batman with Robert Pattinson is getting a sequel, and there's talk that it will include more of the Bat family. Would you consider coming back to play Batgirl? This is an interesting thing for me to look at because, you know, I did want to preface it with saying, well, look at what Variety has reported before. Is this them actually having heard something about, there is talk about this movie, the sequel to The Batman, but The Batman Part 2 will include more of the Bat family? Is that something they've actually heard? Or is this just them, you know, taking in what everyone's saying online, fans thinking, oh, there could be more Bat family? I don't know. I don't want to make a big deal out of this, and the reason being because, you know, it's nothing definitive. But what I thought was really interesting about it is not only in the discussion series for the Batman trilogy that we run on this channel, Robin or just any kind of Bat family pops up a lot. Obviously, with the way Matt Reeves is so comic faithful, the name Dick Grayson pops up a lot. Yes, Variety's a big trade, a major trade, and I've seen some people tweet out saying, well, this isn't some, you know, little scooper account saying this, but then that just reminds me of what I've already said. And again, I can't paint them in one color because they are a big trade and they do get lots of things right. And this isn't them even saying exclusive. I do need to say it again. They could just be like, well, we've heard talk from lots of the fans saying, oh, there could be, you know, Bat family involved. I do think it was just something that has been said, honestly, in a question to Leslie Grace. She literally played Batgirl, a part of the Bat family in the now cancelled Batgirl movie. So I think whoever asked this question simply, I assume, hasn't really heard anything, but just said, you know, it's getting a sequel, and there's talk that it will include more of the Bat family. Would you consider coming back and playing Batgirl? I don't think it's much more deeper than that. I also don't want to shut down the whole prospect of Bat family in the Batman Chapter 2, or should I say Part 2 and Part 3. I've always maintained the notion that I think if there's going to be any Bat family in it at all, it will be Dick Grayson, and Dick Grayson wouldn't be featured until the third and final film. And if you did want to feature him in the second film, it would be that very, very ending scene, like when the Flying Grayson's rope snaps and then it fades to black. You've probably heard me say that 1,000 times, but honestly, I think the first and the second movie are very heavily concentrated on Bruce's psychological development and growth, not only as Bruce Wayne, but as Batman as well. And yes, Robin is a very focal aspect to Bruce's growth in general in the comics, and that could be done in the trilogy. But just to kind of visit this before anyone comments saying, hey Boba, have you seen what Variety said? This is my take on it. I honestly don't think they've really heard anything, and they're talking to someone who has actually played Batgirl, granted not in a released movie, and they're also addressing the obviousness of something fans are wondering about, and that is Bat family in Robert Pattinson's Batman trilogy. And, you know, Batman's already in year 2 in the first movie. Dick Grayson often comes in at year 3. So, you know, that remains to be seen. But yeah, that's all I've got to say about that. Now, let's move on to something also very exciting before we get onto the new Penguin castings, because, by the way, I'm really, really happy with those castings. I know not many people are hot on Penguin news. I'm sure people are, but like whenever I've done videos, the interest isn't nearly as much as other things, for example. But trust me, stick around for that. You might recognize some of these people. So, The next update is something that we have heard before, but whenever this gets brought up, I feel like people don't remember that it's actually been spoken about officially. So I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of re-report it here to you that this is still happening, because technically this has been re-reported by Variety, because a few months ago they said what they are saying here. So at the bottom of this Variety article saying about this casting of Renzi Feliz, I believe that's how you say the name, in the Penguin series, it was also a part of Marvel's Runaways. I'm losing my voice already. They say at the bottom, the Penguin is one of 3 spin-offs of the Batman in the works at HBO Max at present. Variety exclusively reported that Antonio Campos is set to write a series set in Arkham Asylum. That is what we spoke about a little while ago now, and that's the hyperlink to their previous article that we spoke about. But again, I think people either didn't watch that video or people have just forgotten. Like, it is in motion. They've got a writer. They've got the showrunner for the Arkham Asylum show. And while a series set within the Gotham PD remains in development, yes, that is still going. Yes, the history of it is that, you know, it was up and running. It was actually up and running before the Penguin show. Then it kind of went out of development, or kind of put on the back burner, you should say. Terrence Winter left the project due to creative differences. They went full steam and full send ahead on the Penguin. But then, you know, fast forward a bit in time, Gotham PD is back on the page, the Penguin is basically filming, more or less now-ish, and the Arkham Asylum spin-off of the Batman has literally got a writer and a showrunner, so that guy's probably pretty busy as well. So not massive news, but this is just a refresher to you to be like, these are 3 shows, well, let's just say 2 shows because we already know about the Penguin, that are still cooking. They are still cooking, so I'd love to know what you're most hyped for in the Arkham Asylum show, what you think they could tackle in that, and also the Gotham PD series. And I might do a mini discussion series episode based off of these 3 shows as well, so let me know if you would want to see that. Alright, so lastly for today, and funnily enough, another Variety article, they've got the casting, more castings for the Penguin series on top of the previous article we just went over, but these are the actors who excite me most because, to be honest, these are the actors I've seen in previous projects, so I actually don't know about Deirdre O'Connell. But anyway, let's read the headline. The Penguin HBO Max series adds Michael Kelly, Shohreh Aghdashloo, and Deirdre O'Connell. Now, I am very excited about Michael Kelly and Shohreh Aghdashloo because Shohreh Aghdashloo is amazing. I was a big fan of The Expanse on Amazon Prime. If you've seen it, you know exactly what I mean. Shohreh Aghdashloo has been a renowned actress anyway. She has a long career, and she is so good that she could play, like, fitting her in the world of Gotham, Matt Reeves' Gotham. I'm dying to know who these actors are going to play, particularly Shohreh Aghdashloo. That's my favorite casting here. I was excited about the Penguin series anyway, but the fact that I know she's going to be in it, that's so good. Who is she playing? I need to know. And Michael Kelly, I've seen a mix of his work. He was actually, funnily enough, in a teeny tiny role in Man of Steel, but I know him from Jack Ryan. Jack Ryan was, yeah, it was alright, but, like, you know, I really liked his character in it, and he is a character who I can seriously imagine in a casting in Matt Reeves' Gotham. Now, Deirdre O'Connell, I think I've seen her in Outer Range. I haven't finished that show, but I think I looked up her filmography and TV shows and whatnot. I think I've seen her in a couple of things, but nothing particularly stands out in my memory. I'm sure she's great as well. Not knocking on her. I just don't know about her work as much, but I can't begin. I know I keep rambling about it, but just seeing how excited I am for Michael Kelly, but particularly Shohreh Aghdashloo, it should start to explain how perfect I think these castings are for the Penguin series. Now, unfortunately, we do not get any character details on who they could play. Honestly, I could see Shohreh Aghdashloo playing like someone contending for the throne, the vacuum of power that was left behind from Carmine Falcone. It's funny, I could see her playing something like that. I can see her playing someone a bit more passive. She has a very commanding kind of demeanor to her. I mean, or at least she can really pull that off. And in The Expanse, she played quite a political leader of Earth who sometimes you think, man, like, she is cold, but then other times she had this malleable aspect to her that made you really root for her. So she can really play like a, you know, on the line, dark but also good kind of person, and that fits in very nicely with whatever character they cast her for. I would love to know who you think Michael Kelly could play. I think these actors, for the most part, could play freaking anyone, and I would be pretty damn happy with it. I hope they get really good roles. I hope that they're not just given, like, you know, slightly smaller roles. I think if Shohreh Aghdashloo just had like a, you know, really small role, that would be a massive disservice to the talent she could bring to the Penguin show. So it's going to be super interesting to see what is being done with these castings. And I know I've been rambling a little bit about this one, so I think I'm going to end the video here. So we'd love to know what you thought of every part of today's Batman news. What do you think of the DCU Batman stuff being debunked by James Gunn? The fact that we're getting a new actor? What do you think about Variety asking about hearing talk of the sequel to The Batman Part 2, including more BATFAMILY, which, you know, is kind of a shot in the dark. I mean, that's like the easiest thing you could probably guess and ask about. And then, of course, what do you think of the Gotham PD series still being alive, the Arkham series being a bit further along there, and the Penguin series right at the front of the queue? And then, of course, the castings for the Penguin. Can't wait to read your comments, guys. And what I ask of you now is to, losing my voice again, please consider leaving a like on the video. It really helps me out, so thank you so much if you've done that. If you're brand new here and you like this kind of news, reviews, updates, and breakdowns and everything, this is the place for you, so definitely hit that subscribe button. Trying to reach 200K. We'll get there one day. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, fellow Bat family. Oh, that was quite a solid click there, in the next video. Goodbye.